Well, we'll get started. And just want to thank you for being here today and to this senior job search two-part series. And my name is Katie Green. I'm the public health and pre-health industry career coach for undergraduates. And I'm here today with my colleague, Kelly Lawton, who is the employer development consultant. So I am student facing and she is employer facing. And then together we're here to provide you a comprehensive understanding and provide comprehensive information to equip you in your job search. So our goals to equip you will serve as a type of toolbox. And so we'll be covering material that you can directly apply to your job search and your interview process. And so today we're going to be covering three primary areas. So one is the public health industry and overview and trends. Another area will be clarifying your professional brand. And then the third will be expressing that brand through social media and networking opportunities. So we'll get started first with the public health industry overview and trends.
Thank you so much, Katie. So as we dive into these industry trends, let's take a look back at where we were pre-pandemic. So with our previous presidential administration, there had been a large cut in public health funding and grants. However, once the pandemic hit, things really did begin to shift. During the first year in the pandemic, we saw a large increase in funding, but it was primarily focused on contact tracing and boots on the ground. And as we move into the second year in the pandemic and the transition in presidential administrations, we are projecting a continued growth and increase in public health funding in core areas that we're going to talk about. So the first is community outreach and education, and really meeting the community where they live, work, and play, especially around vaccinations and testing. The second area, epidemiology. The pandemic has brought new attention to the need for enhanced surveillance systems and disease control, for sure. And third, in addition, there's been an even larger emphasis on emergency crisis management, certainly around vaccine planning and distribution, but also in the areas such as school planning and disaster preparedness. And then another key area, data and analysis. So bioinformatics and biostatistics and how we really visualize and communicate data and to a variety of audiences and stakeholders is also key. And then finally, the pandemic has also brought a shift in the use of technology, especially in regards to telemedicine and telehealth capabilities, and an increased focus on dashboards, patient apps, and data sharing. These will all be very necessary in moving forward. And then one overarching trend that COVID-19 has further highlighted is the systemic health and social inequalities, meaning how does race, gender, socioeconomic status impact vaccine distribution, health education, and telehealth access? And how do we provide more equitable solutions in today's challenges, both from a policy and community standpoint? And so in summary, public health graduates will likely find it very necessary to be adaptable in a variety of situations as we continue to see the effects of the pandemic unfold. So the public health system, pandemic or no pandemic, can be very challenging to describe to people. This is partly because public health touches so many parts of our communities and daily life. So for example, correctional facilities, faith-based centers, NGOs, school systems, hospitals. It's a web of opportunities. Now, some of you may know exactly what direction in public health you want to go and which specific areas of this web you wish to pursue, and others may still be figuring it out, and that is okay. However, I show you this web before we begin discussing the job search strategies to depict how important it is to have a strategy when thinking about the variety of areas of public health you may want to pursue. Okay, so as we look at exactly, hold on one second. Okay. as we look at exactly the specific areas in terms of the top skills public health employers are looking for, there are certainly some common trends, no matter where in this web of public health you see yourself in the future. And after speaking with a variety of public health organizations and global good organizations, these are the top skills. So skills such as social media capabilities and really being able to communicate health-related messages, organizational and time management, really the ability to be flexible and be able to adapt very quickly to an ever-changing pandemic world. And really that versatility will be key. And so thinking through these top skills and thinking through ways that you may have developed these skills, not only through internships and other job related experiences, but also thinking about your classroom experience, thinking through student organizations you've been a part of and other things outside of the classroom, all of which are things that can go on your resume, which Katie will talk about in a few minutes. But these are the top skills from public health employers that we see are most vital as it relates to what you need to show that you're capable of for becoming a part of the public health workforce. And then finally, what can you be doing now? Obviously, you want to think through what skills you've already developed, but thinking through these top skills and things that you can be developing right now. And so some of these ways that you can be doing that: LinkedIn Learning, finding ways such as either online courses and or ways to brush up on SAS, SPSS, thinking about data analytics, thinking through health policy and epidemiology and ways to continue to get involved, thinking about certificates in program management and coding, and finally, honing or brushing up on language skills. And finally, something that I heard recently at a Global Good conference in terms of volunteering. No matter if you plan to work at the local, national, or international level, especially at the international level, a recruiter said when they look at volunteer work, they want to see what you have done at the local level. If you care so broadly about working in the global good space, it's very, very important to also see what you have already done at the local space. So I think it's very important to think about ways that you can volunteer at a grassroots level in your community and in thinking through different ways that you can make an impact there now can certainly enhance your next steps and provide a really impactful experience.
Thank you, Kelly. So that's a great overview. That's a great way to look at things from sort of a aerial perspective, and then you can start to think about the helpful information that you've just received from Kelly and start to filter down a little bit more into the areas of interest that speak to you. But before we move forward with the presentation, I'd say now is a good time to remind you that individualized content, such as reviewing your resume, your cover letter, or talking about using particular job search platforms, that can be most beneficial to discuss in a one-on-one appointment with a coach. And so I would encourage you to either make an appointment for a resume and cover letter appointment via Handshake to prepare your documents. And then you could always make a one-on-one appointment with me through the health industry appointment to discuss job search strategy, if you will. But now we're going to, now that we've heard the substantive overview about public health industry and trends, we're going to filter this into considering your professional brand. So because you are seniors preparing to graduate, we know that in addition to looking for jobs and simply submitting your resume and cover letter out into the ether, you want to be able to harness what your professional brand is and how you express that to those around you. So as you can see in the image on the screen, Your interests and skills inform whether or not a position is going to be a good fit for you. And you need to be able to believe that you can both contribute and grow within a role. And then additionally, identifying components of your personality, your values, and an ideal work environment that will aid you in determining whether the organization is the right culture fit for you. You might not always receive every one of these descriptions in one job, and certainly maybe not in the first job after graduation, but it is a helpful model to consider as a foundational tool for these types of descriptors to be on, to be on your mind, so that you can start to think about what is a good fit for you and what does it mean for me to show up as a professional in a workplace? What are my values? And so I think here we'd say, what is a brand, right? Oftentimes a brand accompanies an image that then creates thoughts or feelings or reactions from you. And hopefully it leads you to engage with that brand. So I'd like to ask, and I know that we have a small group here, so I will have to, if you don't mind, Rachel, if you'll just share with me some of your thoughts. What are some words or thoughts that come to mind when you see these corporate brands of Target, Nike, Disney, or Twitter? If you want to just unmute yourself and share, what are some initial feelings, thoughts, phrases that come to mind based on your exposure to these corporate brands?
I would say, can you hear me okay? I had
Yes,
some
thank you
issues.
very much.
Yeah. I would say for Twitter, any sort of social media, creativity, innovation. Same goes for like Disney. I would say for Target, reliable.
Mhm.
Nike might be more passionate,
Mhm.
hardworking.
Yeah.
Those are just a couple that come to mind.
Thank you for that. Right. So those are some words that come to mind, and you even alluded to some feelings where you said reliable also might be comfortable, or something where you feel you can go and get all your needs met for something like Target. So that's exactly what we're looking for. And I'd like to suggest to you that the same initial reaction is experienced when projecting your professional brand, meaning a person is going to have a thought, a feeling, a reaction when you show up to a space based on how you present yourself in terms of your passions, your work ethic, and what you consistently demonstrate as part of who you are. So ultimately, you become the brand at the center. And you can't control what a person thinks, but you can control your narrative and your brand. And so what you are presenting to the world as a professional. And so this can be exciting to consider, because you might have various areas of interest, and you want to think about how are you showing up in those areas in a way that is authentic to you. So in order to help clarify this, I'd like to take a few moments to do an activity. And so I should have said this in the beginning, but if you could have a pencil and paper, that would be most helpful. And I'd like to start, I call this a 6-word statement. So, oops, I didn't know it would show both. So step 1 is to simply think about words that describe you. So adjectives, hobbies, what people would say about you, descriptors. And I just want you to take 1 minute and jot down all words that come to mind. And you can see the example that I have put up for myself on the screen. So take a moment, a minute to do that. Okay, and so now, as you continue to add words, they don't need to be just about your professional interests. So please feel free to add anything related to hobbies or just what motivates you on a daily basis. But now, excuse me, let's make sure you can see. Yep. So now I would like you to consider combining some of these words into a 6-word professional statement. They can be 3 individual words, or it could be a phrase. You can choose how you combine the words to do that. So as you can see, I've put forth some that are mostly, now this 6-word professional statement should be mostly professionally focused. But when you just put the words down, just listing them, feel free to put any words, because you never know how that will spark you to think about yourself in a creative way. So in any case, my examples are career coach, inspiring self-actualization. Or sometimes I see myself as a catalyst to connection, body, mind, spirit, because I'm looking at people holistically when they share with me their goals and their passions and some of their challenges in meeting those goals. And then also I look at a lot of written documents, and I enjoy looking at people's writings, personal statements. So I put creator of purposeful prose, illuminating authenticity. So even if you don't have a job title right now that you can rely on to sort of know, like I said career coach, well, that's easy for me because that is part of my title. But you might just know that there's an area that you feel passionately about. So you can say seeker of ABC or inspired by XYZ. So feel free to use it from more of a developmental curiosity perspective. So I'll give you another minute to do that. And then if Rachel, if you wouldn't mind sharing one that you come up with, I would greatly appreciate it.
I can share now if you'd like.
Great, thank you.
I kind of just combined the words that I wrote down, but I said goals-driven researcher, innovative, and curious.
Okay, goals-driven researcher, innovative, and curious. Very good. That's very good. And there can be other ways to even use that. It could be, curious learner, driven, or goals-driven professional, curious about XYZ. You could always combine it like that as well. Very good. So the idea here is not that 6 words is magical, but it forces you to condense some of these descriptor terms and words to help illuminate your brand, right? And particularly at the beginning of your professional development journey, or your career, I should say, and then even throughout years into your career, so much of what you do will be values driven and values based. And so even if you think, wow, I don't have what I deem as a brand, I would challenge you on that statement, because you do have a brand. You just need to look at what are your interests, what are your values, and what are your skills. And as long as you can synthesize those or succinctly express them, you are cultivating a brand. So thank you for doing that activity. So now we're going to talk about moving this from your professional brand via social media, now that we've identified what a brand is. And so you do have your online profile. Hopefully all of you are on LinkedIn and Handshake. And if you're not on LinkedIn, I encourage you to do so, just because it's a great platform to be on, and we'll be talking more about using that effectively tomorrow. But your brand should be authentic and kind of leave a lasting impression. And so when we think about LinkedIn and Handshake, this is a very different kind of brand than how you might portray yourself in social forms of social media. So there's that balance between what is authentic and what is sort of professional. And you might wonder if recruiters are actually using LinkedIn and Handshake to hire new grads, and the answer is definitely yes, they are. And more than 9 in 10 companies use LinkedIn to recruit new hires. And I would say certainly 9 in 10 companies are using LinkedIn to read about you when you apply to a job. So it's helpful to be on there. And so you want to be mindful of what you are putting in that social media space. So some kind of quick tips about having a summary. You want to upload an appropriate photo. So something where you're looking forward, where you can truly see your face. And obviously, I hope it's obvious that there would be nothing inappropriate, no party shots or cartoon avatars or just a picture of a puppy. And then if you want to write an informative but sort of punchy profile headline. And now part of that profile headline could be your 6-word statement. Or it could be, if you've taken Clifton Strengths, you could list your strengths, your top 5 strengths. So you don't have to become a creative writer, but you just want to think about what is going to compel someone to want to know about me and my interests. In terms of the summary, try not to cut corners on this, right? You want to make sure that you are being clear about how you're hoping to develop or with whom you're hoping to make connections, people that might have similar interests. Or maybe you even have a story to tell about how you've grown into your particular passions. And I'll show you an example of that in a moment. And then if you don't have a lot of work experience, don't worry, because the profile allows you to put things like projects you've worked on, or volunteer experience, or organizations you've been part of. So when we think about work, we don't want to just get stuck in the ideas of internship or paid job. It's all about relevant experience and the many ways that you have grown and contributed and cultivated professional development skills, even outside of a paid position. So here's an example of a summary. There'll be two examples I'm going to show you. So the first is sort of your resume bullet format, where you just have these little tack marks. Tenacious problem solver with solid work ethic, remains calm in diplomatic and sensitive situations. Builds enthusiasm and credibility quickly, gaining immediate respect from customers and members of cross-functional teams. Now, this is written by someone who has a few years in the work world, but still you get the point. Able to rapidly adjust to cultures of continuous change. So maybe you would put adaptable, right? Or a quick learner. So you could do it in this way, in the about section, but you would want to make sure that you're using sort of clear vocabulary words to describe these brief descriptions you're choosing to give. The alternative, if you have a story or you like writing stories, would be to say more of a reflection, more of a reflective summary about yourself. You can say that you've graduated, talk about your interests, and then also, say something about your perspective and values. You'll notice in the 3rd paragraph, the person says, for me, to be a creator is to be someone who can think diversely and bring all different forms of ideas into life creatively. Utilizing technology and every opportunity to learn and grow, I aim to innovate digital visual designs. So that to me is more of a mission statement. And so maybe you choose to write something like that, even without the 2 previous paragraphs. Maybe you just want a mission sort of statement like that paragraph. The point is, don't go on and on. Don't make it too long. right? We need to get to the point. People aren't going to read every little word that you write. So you want to make sure that it's concise, but you have options as to how you present yourself. And this also tells me something a bit about your brand, right? Are you a storyteller? Are you relational? Or are you someone that is very goal driven and task oriented? And the way in which you present yourself, that can tell me a little bit, the way in which you present your summary can tell me a bit about yourself. So now we're translating this professional brand and what you've written in your summary into networking, or what we would call your elevator pitch. What is it that you want to share with a potential employer or someone that you meet with whom you have professional interests? What do you want to share with them in a short amount of time to let them know this is who I am, this is my brand? You can do that when doing informational interviews or when actually in an interview. So this is helpful no matter what. So these are two examples of elevator pitches, and each of them are just 3 to 4 sentences long. So they're very brief. They're not meant to be used as an exact science. You're not meant to memorize them, but they're supposed to be a starting point for you and to sort of create a brief narrative that works best for you so that you know how to initially present yourself to new people. So the main focus should be on addressing your relevant interests, skills, and experience that lead you to be a good candidate for that company or that position. You might not know if there's a position available, but you certainly want to connect with them on how your interests and skills align with their company's mission, vision, values. So what I'd like to do is I will read both of them aloud, and then I'd like to take a moment for you to write a few sentences for your own elevator pitch. And then if you could share it, we can then talk about how that would work and in what ways you might want to tweak it. So just as a reflection, let's go ahead and read both. So the first one says, I'm Ray, and I'm a graduating senior at GW. I'm studying public health and spent last summer as a research assistant for GW's Cancer Institute, where I focused mainly on survey data collection. Now that I'm graduating in June, I'm hoping to find a full-time role where I can utilize my research skills. Now that would be a great elevator pitch, especially if you were at a career fair or you were talking to someone that genuinely wants to know about the skills that you have to get a job, because you're being very clear about that. You know, I'm hoping to find a full-time role. You might not always say that to people when you're just networking. You just want to be meeting on a shared interest. So then we have another example. You know, I'm Brenton and I just graduated from the GW Milken School of Public Health, and my particular interest is focused on the effects of food deserts on marginalized populations and the policies related to this. In my studies and relevant projects, I've gained proficiency using statistical analysis tools such as SAS and R. I'm impressed with the work your company does to address food inequity, and I'm eager to learn more about potential opportunities in your department and how I could contribute. So you see, this is more open-ended. It's more about just forming a connection with someone and letting them know about your interests. So if you could take a few moments and write 2 to 4 sentences that speak to you as to an elevator pitch, that would be helpful for you in your own professional brand development. So, what are some key points that you would want to make in your initial networking elevator pitch? What do you want someone to know about you?
I would think that you'd want to showcase your skills, some of your experiences, and then also what you're interested in, um, and kind of where you are in your educational and professional career. I can share kind of what I drafted
Sure,
up.
sure. Thank you.
So I said, as an upcoming graduate with a BS in public health, I'm seeking full-time employment that will allow me to further explore my passion for health equity, as well as showcase my goal-driven work ethic, innovative thinking, and knowledge of health systems. I have extensive experience in health communications, data analysis, and event planning, but I'm always looking to grow and gain new skills.
That's wonderful. Wow, that's very comprehensive, Rachel. Good job.
Thanks.
I think that also you might find that, again, this is a framework. We might not always be in a conversation where you get to say things exactly as you've written them. So knowing that you simply want to highlight that you are an innovative thinker and that you're goal driven and that you do have extensive interests in certain areas, even knowing that allows you to make an initial connection. Um, and then being able to express, and we'll be talking about this tomorrow. Oh, wait 1 second, Malika. And then you'll be able to you'll be able to express your curiosity, saying, for me, I really appreciate innovative systems thinking. In what ways does your company or does your role allow for that? So do you see how now I'm cultivating conversation with someone based on my own values, and that will allow them to get to know you even more? So I would encourage you to start thinking about what are those questions you want to ask people based on your values so that you can go deeper into this conversation. Malika, would you like to ask a question? You can unmute yourself.
Sure. I had a quick question about if it is it appropriate in this little elevator pitch to maybe highlight a specific course or class that you think was really instrumental in developing certain skills that you want to highlight?
I think that's a great way to ground your response, is to say, I'm interested in ABC, and it was particularly through taking this course that I was able to garner particular skills. Yes, that could be very helpful, especially if it relates well to the position or to the company.
Okay.
Do you have an example of the course? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'm double majoring in international affairs and public health, so that's one thing I wanted to highlight in my elevator pitch. But I took health policy, and that was something that I wanted to talk about that kind of I felt was relevant to the interests I have in public policy and across healthcare as well. So
Mhm. And I think that's where you can really use the word intersection, right? So you took a course that really highlighted for you the intersections between these two things and your interest in those two areas. That could be helpful.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Going back to the summary, the about section that we were talking about on LinkedIn or Handshake or GW Career Connect, which we'll talk about tomorrow as well. Uh, what would you like an employer to know in terms of how you seek to grow? So for instance, Rachel, you mentioned, you have experience in a variety of areas and yet you're always seeking to learn and grow. What type of professional would you ideally hope to connect with in a social media world?
Um,
Like people
like
focused
who,
on data analysis, or, like what are some, can you give me like an umbrella term that would help me know what kind of professionals you'd be interested in connecting with?
yeah, I would say people, I think most of the positions I'm applying to are very research focused, and um, with that comes a lot of data analysis. So any professionals with a lot of experience in that, or that are working in roles where that's a big thing.
Mhm.
Um,
Thank you.
yeah,
That's the
that's
reason I
probably what I would
asked. No,
say.
no, that's good. That's enough.
Okay.
Is because, no, the reason I asked those, because you might put that at the end of your About Me section is, I'm eager to connect with professionals in this platform who with whom I can share my appreciation for the, the science of data analysis. Like you don't have to have reasons. It's a networking tool, so you just want to be as clear as possible about the types of people with whom you want to network. I mean, you might meet someone that doesn't have those skills and there's still a really great connection to have made, but why not be somewhat forward in the type of connections you are hoping to make? So I just wanted you to think about it. It's something you could potentially do. And then, Malika, what would you say?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question again?
What type of professionals would you seek to try to connect with on LinkedIn? Like what aspects or knowledge base would you like them to have ideally?
Yeah, definitely somebody who kind of has experience working in the policy arena or who has influence in policy making. Also kind of anyone who has experience in, I'm really interested in maternal health care.
Mm-hmm.
So something along those lines, and global health development.
Okay. And so part of showcasing your professional brand and part of networking is to also showcase your curiosity, because employers are not going to expect that you come in having every particular type of competency and to be someone that you are not. So certainly you want to highlight all of your assets, all of your skill sets, all of your asset capital, what you bring, what your strengths are. But I also would encourage you to become comfortable expressing your curiosity and inquisitiveness on certain topics and areas of interest so that people can say, wow, this person is committed to this work. They desire to not only contribute, but to learn and grow in that field. So that's sort of the, I would say the dialect of professional brand, if you will. The professional brand should have a dialect of curiosity and, being inquisitive. So could each of you just share maybe one or two questions that you would want to ask a potential person working in public health, generally speaking, that you are curious about in terms of whether it's research or if in terms of its policy? What might you be curious to ask without knowing what corporation it is? So I realize it's a challenging question.
I kind of just have like a more general question that I might ask someone, regardless of like where they're working. But I think as someone that's, starting their career, something really important wherever I'm working is growth and development. So I think just asking questions about their experience with the organization they're working with, have they felt like they've been supported and like been able to level up their skills and like their responsibilities in a way. Mm-hmm. I think that's definitely a question that I'd probably ask if I was just trying to like get to know their experience working somewhere.
Yeah, and that's a great question. And I would also say that the flip side of asking that question is your ability to describe in what ways you've appreciated growth in the past. So maybe you've been in a research lab or you've done types of research where you felt that you were mentored or that you were able to take on new tasks and show some initiative or innovate. And then in stating that can be your preface, that can be the transition to, so therefore I'm curious to know more about how your organization supports this type of professional development. Because again, asking the question without it being related to value is sort of like an empty question in a sense, but letting me know more about you and why that's important, I've learned more about your professional brand. And so I hope that's of help. Another question, maybe.
I would ask how they see the skills and the experience that they're currently building at their company are transferable to future experiences and what they see themselves bringing out of this current experience down the line.
Mm-hmm. So how has this position benefited you in your own growth? Yes. And maybe being able to articulate why, what skills you're hoping to gain, or just that you value gaining transferable skills, and making sure that that's clear. So, in summary, I just want to say that this professional brand, as much as it might seem like, well, I'm not a corporation, I'm not walking around, as a corporate brand, but every interaction you have with people you already know or new folks that you'll come in contact with through informational interviewing, outreach, etc., you have an opportunity to showcase your skills, interests, experiences, and your passion. And again, I can't stress enough, also just your curiosity, your desire to learn and ask them questions, that they will take that with them. That will be an impression that you leave. And that is a professional brand. And so knowing that you have the opportunity to cultivate your own narrative. Rachel, you gave a great example of your elevator pitch, and it's very clear on what you're looking to do and how you're looking to grow. If that's written in a cover letter, or if that is said as a elevator pitch, that's wonderful. And we want to make sure that we are connecting everything we're saying to our values. So you can make a statement and say this is important, but then the question is why? Why is it important? Well, it's because of my previous experiences. So then we get to peel back the layers and get to know you even more. And that comes from just conversation, right? You have to get it started, and then it's a regular conversation with someone where you get to share more. Tomorrow is going to be great because we're going to go into making sure you know how to network effectively with GW Career Connect, LinkedIn. We'll spend just a little bit on time on that, and being able to filter people through companies on LinkedIn. So maybe looking for GW alums that work at certain companies of interest. But then the crux of the hour will be on considering what you want to get out of informational interviews. And I would like to spend significant time on certain interview questions and what are employers looking for when they ask you those questions, and how would you like to respond to them? So sort of giving you some best practices and tips for when you are moving to the interview phase. And again, in terms of resume cover letter preparation and talking about the actual sites in which you're looking for jobs, you can schedule one-on-one appointments with a career coach to talk about those things. At this point in your professional development and your job search process, what I'm seeing is our graduating seniors really want to feel comfortable connecting with employers and understanding who they are in their professional brand, which is why I've offered this two-part series. So I hope this was helpful today, and hopefully you'll attend tomorrow and we'll be able to talk about those interview questions. I will be sharing the slides with you. These are some resources here. I have an article on the job market trends, as well as some of the top 500 list of who's hiring. But then I also have some links to LinkedIn Learning if you want to take classes or mini courses like Kelly suggested, as well as some handshake resources. But tomorrow there'll be some other resources regarding interviewing that I'll put on it. So I'm going to pause here and allow for any questions you might have, whether they're related to the presentation or maybe slightly off topic, that's fine as well. And then we will wrap up. So what questions might you have with this remaining time that we have together? And if you don't have any, you can let me know that too, but I just want to offer time.
I don't think I have any other questions for right now. This was really helpful, so thank you. I'm kind of in the middle of the interview process at a couple places, so I think tomorrow will be especially helpful, and I'll definitely have more questions then. Good.
Well, I'm glad. Thank you for letting me know. And if that is all for questions, then I will stop recording, and I look forward to seeing you both tomorrow. Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.